successful project, by extension, a successful investment will vary by city as what is termed smart, will vary from city to city. And that should influence the funding structure. This was according to the report of the EU Investco. We are at a critical time where we as Africans cannot afford to be left out, as we have the ability on the continent, the talent pool, to turn cities into smart cities. Hence the need to promote early stage investors in the technology space. We acknowledge the efforts of startups such as Andela, Flutterwave, Intersway, Sandy, and a host of others that are on the path to creating this huge impact in technology in the space in Africa. However, we must also emphasize that in creation of all of these technologies, the smart cities economic development should not be left out. At ABAN, we are trying our best to share learnings from key stakeholders, founders, investors, and supporting organizations, whether they're incubators or policy makers or change drivers. We also look at discussing challenges and opportunities in African smart city ecosystem. We are also looking to encourage the synergies between ecosystem players to enable the great ideas and companies to scale faster within the shortest possible time within the space. ABAN is also looking at to inform the audience, as you are all attending today, that ABAN is taking a leading role in supporting the growth of early stage capital in the smart city sector. So if you are looking at this sector, we are taking a leading role in supporting the growth of your organization. This will be done by creation of a cross-border angel group network that will invest in innovations in smart cities. So take note of that. We invite angel investors to connect with ABAN if you are interested in joining the new angel group. As you know, ABAN is growing from day to day. At ABAN, we have contributed to early stage investing. We have about 1,500 angel investors, 56 angel networks in 30 countries on the continent. We have $400 million angel investors to $5 billion raised by startups last year on the continent. The current evolution of technology is the beginning of an era of innovation and technology-based solutions, in which technology has become the future in every sector of the economy. I would like to thank the ACES team who has put all of this together, and we recognize your hard work. My colleagues at the ABAN, BC4A, who is always supporting and collaborating with us, AEBID Net, the panelists today, and of course, the audience for attending. Finally, I urge you all to participate actively in this session, as it is packed with innovative ideas from really, really seasoned speakers. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Yemi Kerry, for this wonderful welcome remark. I would like to call on stage Dario, who is the CEO of Brighton Bridges, to give us an overview of the smart city sector on the continent.
Hey everyone, hi Fadila, it's good to see you. I think the last time we met was in Abuja last year. Good to see everyone. Hi Yemi. Thanks the ABAN and VC4A teams. It's always good to collaborate with you. So I've been called here to provide an overview and just to kind of set in the scene of what the topic is, I'm very happy to see some of the founders we've worked with in the past. I might need to share my screen if you guys can allow me, so I can present a few of the slides that we put together. So myself, I'm Dario. I run a company called Brighter Bridges. We do market intelligence in emerging markets and mainly across Africa. And we've recently put together a report on, which is actually titled Towards Livable Cities Across Africa. And the idea for this was actually to be able to create a sort of to contextualize what the whole debate around innovation, smart cities, inclusion, sustainability, environmental and social care across the continent. And this is the sort of the product of this. Brighter produces a number of reports every year, and this is one of the latest ones. I'm not sure if you guys are able to, yeah. You might have to make me either admin or allow multiple screen sharing.
Hi, Dario, are you able to share the screen now?
Yes, awesome, thank you. Fantastic. So you just have a few slides. This report is, I've actually cut a number of pages not to make it too boring today. So as you say, the title is Towards More Livable Cities in Africa, an introduction to innovation for inclusion and sustainability in urban areas. So we really focus on urban areas. You all know that, one of the sort of hottest topics on, all things Africa and innovation and development is around the urbanization rate and the condition of and the standards of living in the urban areas. And so we wanted to focus on some of the organizations that are working in this space. And what we really wanted to look at is so we created an umbrella term, which is the livable city concept, which wanted to kind of encompass the different products and services that concur to creating really a livable environment. So not just from an environmental perspective, but also for sort of access to sort of key product and services. So as you can see here, some of the contributors to this are organizations that work with food, organizations that work with logistics, organizations that work with kind of access to finance and lending, organizations that work in the environment, sorry, in the energy space. Let me just focus on one page at a time. So a few years ago, I was talking in Tunis about the springing of smart cities, and I wanted to we wanted to update the landscape. We wanted to the landscape that we're producing. So we focus on these new cities across the continent that are, in most cases, are actually still kind of in project phase or still in being designed. None of these smart cities is actually fully operational, and these are kind of new urban areas, smart urban areas, where the governments and private are coming together as kind of PPP and private-public partnerships to create really connected, integrated, and sustainable environments. And here we wanted to show a little infographic to give you an idea of the different aspects that concur to creating this sort of concept of smart and livable cities. So anywhere from South Africa all the way to Benin and Tunisia, we see the development of environments like this. All of these reports are readily and freely downloadable from our website, and the data underlying this can also be found largely for free on our intelligence platform. So anything I can probably drop the links over there. So something that we wanted to focus on was the complexity of the concept of smart and livable. So it's not just about having Internet of Things or blockchain or some specific high technology when it comes to looking at smart cities, but we're looking at also education. We're looking at having efficient and inclusive transport, having access to utilities and basic services, water, electricity, right? Gas, There are some of the companies that are popping up in Africa right now, growing very fast, that are actually distributing and making access to cooking gas available on the continent, or access to sustainable and biofuels. I know that ABAN is probably invested through some of the syndicates in some of the companies that are doing this. I know for sure that Tommy, you are, if you're listening. So check out some of these organizations, because maybe they're not abide by the usual standard concept of digital and hyper tech, but they are also using kind of frugal innovation to make access to basic service and products sort of affordable and available to the many across the continent, and then again all the way to housing, waste management, and employment. Something that Brighter does a lot is focusing on breaking down the concepts and the ideas in the sector and the subsectors. So we wanted to identify all the sectors, the macro sectors that apply. So we identified 12 of these macro sectors, and then we looked kind of deep dive into the different products. So for instance, in agriculture and agri-tech, which ones are the products that you can see popping up on the continent in urban areas? So urban farming, hydroponics, or professional skill development, some companies that are focusing on that, or food delivery and grocery delivery, or again, carpooling, maybe optimization of the transport system, or again, waste recycling and the creation of a link between the market and gig workers and informal workers. So the bottom line for this is we wanted to apply some system thinking, a very sophisticated taxonomy to understand what concurs to building a kind of sustainable environment and livable environment on the continent. Here we looked at but these are not our data, obviously. These are data from the World City Report, and we just wanted to show some of the kind of the growth projected in millions across the continent, across some of the main. We've only focused on these 4 cities, but as you know, like maybe people from like Kinshasa, people from Accra, people from Maputo. That you obviously can apply the same thing to this. For kind of, I guess, operational and logistic reason, we couldn't explore the entire continent, but we focus on some that could represent some kind of models for the rest of the continent. So we looked at, I'm not going to deep dive too much into this. I'll let you guys kind of maybe even download and take a look at this, but we try to map out some of the main players across each of these urban areas. So Nairobi, Cape Town, Cairo, and Lagos. And we really wanted to show the diversity of this. Again, I'm actually very happy to pick up any questions. I do have a hard stop, but the idea for us was really to introduce a topic which is vast, which has been addressed by public and private organizations. We've been working with anyone from the United Nations all the way to European Commission, World Bank, but also several private actors that are actually looking to bridge digital skills, kind of investing in solar energy as an alternative source of energy for both commercial and residential areas on the continent, actually both in urban and non-urban areas, and so on. So I'd be happy to kind of provide further input. Also, again, like this is a bit of a snippet of the report that we put together, but there's a wide variety of data available on in here and on our platform, so feel free. But then again, I'm sure that the following speakers will be able to deep dive in some of these verticals.
Thank you very much, Dario, for this great overview. It has been stated that by 2050, more than a quarter of the world population will live in Africa. And smart city is actually defined as an innovative city that uses technology and other means to improve the quality of life, efficiency of urban operation and services, while making sure that it meets the needs of the present and future generation with respect to economic, social, and environmental aspects. And today we are in the application utility phase. What I mean by that is that we are in the decade of the 2020s, where softwares and service system will unlock value out of the connected devices at scale. And we have a number of founders who have been working tirelessly to create value in that respect. And it's my greatest pleasure to introduce the founders panel. And on this panel today, we have Patrick Timoni, a CEO and co-founder of BSAL. We also have Adetoyo Bamideo, the CEO and co-founder of Max. And lastly, but not least, we have Sedebe Monake, who is the founder of Vintage. I think I'm reading that right. And I would like to welcome the founders to switch on the video and briefly take 2 minutes or 1 minute to introduce themselves. Hello, Patrick, are you with us today? Oh, thank you, your video is on. Tayo is
yes,
also...
hello, Fatima.
Thank you for thank you for joining us today. And Setebe is also on. And Justin sends his apologies. He's not able to join today due to an emergency. I would like to start with Patrick. Can you give us a brief introduction about your solution and about yourself?
Hi, Fadila. It is a good pleasure to be part of this event.
Excuse me, Patrick. I think you have 2 devices on.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, please, can you start with the next one, then I will join in to solve this.
Okay. Please, Setebe, can you take the lead?
Thank you so much. It's good to see you, Taya, after quite a while. Yeah, so I am the founder of Vantage Properties, and our main solution is GoSmart Value, which is an automated and real estate data analytics platform, a real estate information platform, really. So our core mission is really to drive informed decision making for decision makers across the Have I been audible? Because I saw my mic is off. Am I audible now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, no, thank you. I was saying, so Setebe Monake from GoSmart Value. The company name is Vantage Properties, but our main solution is GoSmart Value, which is an automated property valuation and real estate information platform. Our core mission is really to aid informed decision-making when it comes to financing real estate across the continent. So we make information available for key decision makers around finance, investment, and development in real estate. I'm based in Botswana, and we are hard at work in making sure that we're able to deliver the solution across the continent.
Thank you very much, Setebe. We're going back to Patrick. Are you ready, Patrick?
Yes, I'm ready now. Thank you for that. Yes, again, thank you again, Iban and Fadila, for this event. For me, it's a great pleasure to share this event with the brilliant people like Tayo, all the Sente, Manake, Justin, and others. To present me myself, I'm Patrick. I'm from Cameroon, and we are develop a platform to facilitate the access for the leasing to the motorcycle drivers, because in our ecosystem today, it's not easy for the drivers to get a loan for the bikes. They have to go to deal with formal market. Others, they can get loan for 80% for 6 months. So what we do since 4 years in Cameroon, we develop a platform where these drivers can apply for the bikes as leasing. And we also give this bike with all the package like GPS trackers, insurance in case of accident. We also give training skills, financial skills, how to maintain the income, how to prepare the own event issue. And then we give them bikes. And what we do also is not to give them bikes and let them go. We give them bikes, we also give them jobs, where they can get extra income to repay our leasing easily. And to reduce the cash collection, we integrate API for the telco operators in Cameroon, where the drivers, most of the drivers already have this mobile money account. So we use this API to help them to make the payment digitally. So in this process, the drivers also understand about tech, because they be part of the ecosystem. They have a driver apps where they can pay, where they can apply for loan, for smartphone, and so on. And today we are also planning to work with the Total fuel station, where they can use the fuel, they can buy the fuel in the morning, but pay afternoon. Because all the time, most of them have to use their savings to buy fuel, work, and pay us. With Total, they can buy fuel, work, and at the end of the day, they can pay back the fuel. So this kind of facility, we are working on it because we want to increase the financial inclusion in Africa, and it's a big challenge. But of course, with these big owners for IBAN, we have this exposure to talk to convince investors for worldwide who already understand that Africa is time to come inside and to be part of the journey. So thank you again, for this opportunity to share our vision. We'll be happy to understand what the other participants have in mind about this Smart City event. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Don't go yet. We have a couple of questions that will be coming your way. Tayo, can you please come on and talk to us about yourself? And also we'll be happy to hear about the great work that Max is doing.
Sure, thank you very much. Tayo here, co-founder and CEO at Max. We're a vehicle subscription and a financial services platform focused on providing commercial drivers access to high quality vehicles, including 2, 3, and 4-wheel vehicles. So that includes motorcycles, tuk-tuks, and cars. In addition to that, we've also pioneered the transition to electric vehicles on the continent. We've designed and built something called the Max M3, which to date is the most advanced electric motorcycle on the continent. So pretty much Max is at the forefront of, helping to transform our mobility industry on the continent, helping drivers to get on the path towards vehicle ownership, and also driving the transition, of course, away from fossil fuels to electric powered mobility. We're currently operational in Anglophone West Africa and in the process of launching in other parts of the continent, including North, East, and Eastern Africa as well. So very excited to be here, and I look forward to answering the questions.
Thank you very much, Tayo, for this great introduction, as well as Patrick and Sitebe. I would like to deep dive a little bit into the logistic. It's one of one of the very interesting sector on the continent for many reasons. One, the logistics sector has not been very much developed, and two, the potential to scale services within the logistics sector is also incredible. And I would like to know what were the drivers for you to actually invest in building solutions to solve some of the logistic and movement issues that the continent currently face. The first question goes to Tayo.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering. Okay, sure, happy to jump in. I mean, you already said it, right? Logistics is so critical. Logistics and mobility, the movement of people and goods, is extremely important, right? You know, they say that wars are won on the basis of, ultimately, those who win wars win them because they have the best logistics. But also, successful societies and economies are built on very efficient and very effective logistics. So when you're talking about logistics or mobility, or the transportation of people, or the movement of goods, you're fundamentally looking at a few things, right? Number one is you're looking at safety. You know, is it safe to move people around? Is it safe to move products around? Number two is you're looking at accessibility, right? Can people access transportation and logistics services when they need it? Number three is you're looking at affordability as well. Can people afford it? It's one thing to put in place mobility and logistics systems. It's another thing for them to be for these systems to be affordable to the average person. And then last but not least is sustainability as well, right? And particularly from a planetary climate change perspective, right? Are we implementing and building logistics and mobility systems that are sustainable and clean, ultimately for our people and our planets? So when you look at all of these four dimensions, you know, there's absolute need for innovation, right? Innovation in technology, innovation in service delivery, innovation in IoT, and all the other things that are required. And of course, innovation in financial services as well, to make sure that we're able to deliver the technology, the access, the impact, you know, that is needed by our people at scale so that we can continue to accelerate economic growth, right, and economic development. If you look around the continent today, obviously, the high cost of logistics and mobility services is a big barrier to economic growth and economic development. And that's where there's a lot of effort that's going in, you know, from financial services intermediaries to technology startups, like a lot of those that are represented here today, but also to even policymakers, right? You know, how do you continue to put in place the right policies that would accelerate the reforms and the investments that are needed to provide the kinds of transport and mobility systems and logistics systems that would drive economic growth and economic development. And then there's also the angle of job creation as well. You know, logistics and mobility provide us a tremendous platform to be able to create hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of jobs, right? We're looking at a fast-growing continent today. By 2050, Africa would have close to 800 million young people. So there's also the question of what jobs will these people do? So therefore, logistics and mobility, you know, plays such a critical role in economic growth and development. And there's so much innovation that opportunities that exist, you know, across IoT, across apps, across financial services, across electric mobility, that can drive the kind of results that we are all, you know, anticipating. I'll stop at that for now.
Thank you very much, Tayo. I would like to go a little bit with Patrick. Patrick, you're currently operating in Cameroon. It is a country of about 30 million people. And the main mode of transportation is the motorcycle, as is known in other as Okada. I would like to know what was the process of penetrating the market, and how did your clientele how receptive were they with the application that you brought in the market and the solution that you were offering?
Exactly, thank you. It's a nice question. Yes, as the title explained, first we have the same issue. At the beginning, I want to explain from the ground. At the beginning, when we launched B, we want to become a marketplace where people can order bike as in demands. But we figured that 80% of drivers were not the owner of the bikes. So they drive the bike for someone else because they don't have money to afford to purchase the bikes. And when we figure that the performance of the drivers who is the owner of the bikes is the same with the driver owner of bikes. Because when it drives for someone else, it has to pay back something at the night. So then the pressure. And when the pressure, the quality of living is very bad because they rush only for money. They will say, okay, let us focus first to support them to become the owner of the bike, to empower them to become the owner of the business. That's now today our first step of our journey. When we reach that place, we think that today in Africa, e-commerce is around 12% or 20%. So they're the big demand. But this demand cannot go at the same time with the logistics because the logistics is the key point of the digital. Because today we move people, we move money, we move goods. But the biggest challenge also is the address. Because today to reach one place, the Google Maps is easy to it's not very well acquired to Cameroon. So you need people who can innovate to adapt our mapping for our country. Because if you always want to use Google Map, it's extremely expensive for us. And when it's expensive, then you want to charge that to your partner for delivery. So today, we think that this is a chain of the logistics. There are a lot of actors that to be there, like the mobility platform for leasing, the startup for the geolocalization, the e-commerce. So, and it's very difficult because the internet penetration is still expensive than the other country or Europe. So if you are making very well a job to train drivers, but at the other hand, the internet is still expensive, then we think. So that's why we try to focus off first to help drivers to have access of bikes, but in parallel, we still make delivery. Because as I didn't mention before, PO will not be, we work with Jumia in Cameroon. So delivery is very high, but the infrastructure to delivery in 20 minutes, in 30 minutes is still difficult. So that's why there are some challenges that we need to talk with the policy makers of the government to have some support, not to invest money, but to have some facilities for the tax, for the implementation, for the facility for our drivers. And with this kind of events, I think that some of the makers are there to understand that something that's moving, but we cannot move alone. So that's why we need them to go fast. But I can say that the logistics is a very high part of the economics because even today with the COVID, people want to reduce the moving. They prefer to assign to give to the delivery guy, to delivery woman for the business. But the infrastructure is still a challenge. So we still working very hard to see how we can grow, but also not have a negative impact for the ecology, because we are still thinking how we can adapt or how we can adapt the EV vehicle for economics, because if you think about EV vehicle, you need to see how we make charging, even if it's for battery or in-charge battery. So all these things we are discussing with others, for other countries, how they do and how we can scale this together. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm just going to pause a little bit there in terms of logistics and movement. I would like to go to Setebe, who's calling us from Botswana. Setebe, you have designed and implemented quite an interesting solution. And we know very well that if you're trying to get a traditional loan from a bank today on the continent, you must have a property. And sometimes it takes a long time for the bank to actually carry out the KYC on that property. And I think your solution actually solves that problem. I would like you to please elaborate a lot more about the solution that you have designed and implemented and how it is solving the problem of identifying and verifying property in Botswana, and then eventually we hope that you will be able to expand beyond Botswana.
Great, thank you so much for that, Padilla. So in terms of our solution, so there's two aspects of it. The first one being valuations, automated valuations. And anybody who's bought a property in the continent knows that you struggle a bit with getting a valuation for you to agree on, whether it's a commercial development or it's just a piece of land or any kind of residential property. So our solution is basically to have a starting point for information, that have a starting point for negotiation that comes from validated source of information, that comes from a trusted or independent objective method that anybody who is involved in a transaction can particularly trust. So that's where the automated property valuation works. And the reason why we have brought it in, and particularly on the assistance with the banks or the financial institutions, is that you'd find that across the continent, we have a significant shortage of accommodation. We know this, but land is limited. It ends somewhere. So we need to be able to provide sufficient accommodation in the continent in a way that is also affordable or makes financial economic sense in the terms of financial inclusion that we need to achieve, in the times of ensuring that we use our resources in the best possible or the smartest possible way. So the solution that we have is to assist the financiers, to assist the investors, to be able to make decisions with that kind of information. So you'll have your automated valuation, even in areas where you don't normally have transactions. We're able to follow up the demographics, the economic activity, such that you're able to determine what the value of a property in that area should be. And with an understanding that honestly, a valuation is a prediction of how much a buyer and the seller would be willing to transact at. It should be easy for machine learning and AI to replicate in a way that makes sense, in a way that it's able to push for transactions that will push for development across the continent. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect is when it comes to the financial institutions providing funding, or investors providing or investing in real estate development across the continent. You find that information there is very rare, it's limited, it's sparse. And what we're trying to do is bring that information in a format that you can be able to make decisions, follow the trends, and know whether the transaction that you want to do makes sense, follow the trends, and know whether there is an opportunity to invest in a particular rural area or in a particular small area just outside a suburban area where you want to be financing a new type of development that hasn't been financed in that area before. So our whole aspect is to sort of demystify and just declutter the information such that it's easier for property to be financed across the continent in areas that even we haven't had transactions before, and to reduce the premiums that are charged for home loans simply because of the lack of information around the demographics that are supporting that kind of development, or the purchasing capacity of that particular area. Once we have got the accuracy of information, it's easier for people to make information. That's really what our drive is. It's quite simply, and that's what we're following. What kind of decisions need to be made and what kind of information is required. And then we strive for making sure that we avail of that kind of information for whoever the decision maker is, particularly in the finance sector, in investment, and in terms of development.
Thank you, Sithebe. I've done a little bit. I also would like to welcome the audience to ask any question that they may have for our founders. And while I'm waiting for your question, one element that I want us to touch upon today is I would like you to, first of all, tell us a little bit about your your journey as a founder, as a female founder, and the support system that you had around you to allow you to reach the stage at which you are at the moment.
Yeah, thanks. So being a female founder is an interesting aspect. My background is in real estate. And I think I've been 16 years in real estate as an asset manager, property manager. I'm a chartered surveyor, property investment and finance. And the property environment is equally as male dominated as the tech environment. And having to transition and pivot between the two has been quite an interesting journey. And I've received significant support, I'd say, from ABAN, from Angel Network Botswana, VC4A, and there's many programs that are targeted to women now, and I'm really proud that it's a new thing, but it's increasing in that regard. I think the challenging thing is, I was listening to Yerti earlier, Yeki, I think, talking about how much financing has been provided for smart city founders or tech in the past year, and to get to being one of the first, it is amazing now, but we have a long way to go in terms of providing funding and dealing with the challenges that female founders deal with in providing solutions, particularly complex solutions. I think solutions that are straightforward are much more easier to understand, but we happen to have to jump through a lot more hoops for the much more complex solutions.
Thank you very much, Sitebe. We don't have any question at the moment. We have one question, but I think the question is a lot more relevant to the investor panel. I would like to go to Patrick. And Patrick, can you share in 1 minute what has been your investment journey in terms of your experience?
Oh, yes. It was pretty difficult because first of all, I'm coming from the engineering background. I didn't make MBA. I didn't know how. I didn't go to the incubator or accelerator program. So to pitch the investor was for me very difficult because I didn't know how to pitch there before. And so, but learning by doing, also with other mentors, we try to raise some fund for fellow friends, colleagues, former colleagues, to start the business. And then we have the chance to also get the fund also from ABAN in the catalytic program. With this fund, we really make a good move to start to get some income to our business. And now we have some venture capital support investors who are ready to invest in our business. So we are in the pre-seed now. And so even for Africa, it was not easy. So sometimes when you want to raise money, you have to open your headquarters, start an operation in Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya. But today, people start to believe and to understand that Africa has a huge potential, and the funders there are have a big performance, good capacity to run the startup. And we want to be one of the first startups who will bring more investors to our country or to our ecosystem of Africa. So it was the angel investor from Africa did not understand it at the beginning. They still believe in startups, so they prefer to put money in the savings or to buy a real estate house to make as capital. But today they understand that in startup they can make 5, 2 times, 10 times what they invest. And today we raise money and we ensure that with this investment we can show to investors that Francophone Africa is ready for the tech startup. So we have to be there.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I would like to go to Tayo. And Tayo, I have a different question for you. Tayo, I would like you to kindly highlight some of the the issues that the logistics/mobility sector is facing, and how best those that are listening to us, I'm talking about the policymakers, the investors, as the capacity builder that are connected today, can further kind of structure their support towards that particular sector on the continent.
Okay, I just want to be sure I understand the question correctly. Would you like me to speak about, how policies could accelerate the process by which, logistics and mobility happens on the continent?
Correct. You can focus on policy. Correct.
Okay, fantastic. So, when you look at the work of innovation in general means that you are going up against the traditional way of doing things, right? And if you look at Africa, a lot of some of the stuff we've done over the last 20, 30, 40 years, a lot of it, to be honest with you, is just based off of the relics of colonization, right? So, some of those learnings have been very helpful, right? But also some of those learnings have been what I would call, mindless replication, right? So bottom line is that it's time to do what works best, right? Especially for this part of the world. How do we make sure that we put in place policies that encourage and accelerate innovation that solves the unique challenges that we face as a continent, rather than trying to replicate strategies that may have worked in other parts of the world, but may not necessarily be the best fit for the continent, especially at this point in time. So I think this is the right time for policymakers to think carefully about how whatever policies they put in place, how they could potentially discourage innovation and ultimately discourage investments, right? So across the continents today, 95% of our transportation industry, at least 95%, is still informal, right? It's informal, which means it's below the radar. It's you don't know how much transactions are actually happening in there. You don't know how many participants are actually involved. We don't know how much money is actually flowing through. We don't know a lot of things, right? So how do we drive formalization? How do we drive digitization? How do we make sure that our mobility and logistics systems evolve very quickly, right, to meet the needs of our fast-growing population? And I think here, policymakers have a big role to play, right? They have a big role to play by taking away unnecessary roadblocks, taking away unnecessary taxes, right? Providing tax breaks to innovators, right? Encouraging, investments into the space, right? Putting in place special government programs to encourage people to deploy more capital into the space, right? And also, encouraging formalization, right? So, for example, in many countries on the continent as well, we have extreme, illegal union activity, right? Where people are extracting taxes illegally from the transport industry without actually doing anything to invest in it. So a lot of the money that's also being generated is going into essentially, via mafia groups into private pockets. So there's a lot that policymakers can do and must do to accelerate innovation, to encourage investors to deploy more capital into the space, and to also ultimately enable the ultimate beneficiaries, which are the transport operators themselves and commuters, to be able to get a lot more value from the space, rather than allowing the continuing influence of non-state actors who do nothing but extract illegal taxes and exhibit very unhelpful parasitic tendencies on the industry.
Thank you so much, Tayo. Tayo, there's one last follow-up question from Bashir, and he wants to know, do you believe that the business regulatory environment is keeping pace with the ambition to build smart cities? And what do you have experience in that respect?
Okay, is the regulatory landscape, is it keeping pace with innovation? Of course not, of course not. I mean, you've heard everybody on this call speak. Patrick talk about his experience, operating, building his company in Cameroon, raising funding. You've heard Satebi as well. A lot of the challenges that she's faced. And it's the same story. You talk to any mobility or smart city entrepreneur on the continent, and they will tell you the exact same thing, right? You know, we have we've been able to get to where we are despite the challenges we face, especially with policymakers and with regulators, right? So the short answer to your question is no, right? Regulation has done a lot more harm than good to smart city innovation on the continent. So this is the time for governments to reflect, right? And then for them to make real commitments, and not just make commitments, but actually back up those commitments with real action, right? It's one thing to make commitments, another thing to actually back it up with real actionable strategies and policies to accelerate innovation. And that's really that's the least that our governments can do.
Thank you so much, Ty.